a chilling whisper carried on the wind, not of air, but of ancient parchment. Imagine, if you will, a find so profound it could unravel the very fabric of our perceived reality. A forgotten manuscript, long thought lost to the fires of suppression, detailing a cosmic secret, that our names, our very essence, were not merely spoken into existence, but encoded. Not just in words, but in the very building blocks of life itself, our atoms. Specifically, in the elegant, timeless curve of the double helix, a pattern eerily echoing ancient Kabbalistic texts on creation. This wasn't just biological, it was a spiritual blueprint, a divine signature etched into our being. This manuscript spoke of a name, a primordial vibration, older than any deity we know, a name so potent it was feared even by the fledgling church, a name whose very utterance was said to disrupt celestial order. It revealed an entanglement with bloodline magic, a lineage bound by cosmic covenants, legacies passed down not just in shared features, but in deeply imprinted spiritual contracts. Viewers would be guided through forgotten rituals, not mere historical curiosities, but active ceremonies designed to provoke a profound remembering, a reawakening of this sigil within their own cellular memory. The shocking truth would emerge. Our DNA, this miracle of biology, functions as far more than organic code. It is spiritual encryption, a library of forgotten power, or perhaps a cage. The conclusion would leave viewers reeling, exposing why this forgotten rite of activation was systematically outlawed, ruthlessly purged across every major empire, and why its rediscovery now feels less like chance and more like destiny. You've glimpsed the forbidden encoding within our very cells, but what is this name that commands such fear, and why was it so desperately hidden? In the next section, we delve into the forbidden history of the name that, by all accounts, should not exist. And real quick, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos. Now let's get started. The air grew heavy, thick with the unspoken dread of a truth too dangerous to acknowledge. This manuscript, brittle with age and steeped in the scent of forgotten ages, was more than just ink on vellum. It was a testament to a war waged not with swords, but with knowledge, a conflict fought in the shadows to erase a name, a concept, a power that predated civilization itself. The early church, in its desperate scramble for dominion, recognized a threat unlike any other. This wasn't a rival god or a competing philosophy. It was the fundamental vibration of existence, a sound, a sigil, a name that held the keys to creation and consequently to uncontrolled power. Its existence challenged the very foundations of their newly constructed divine hierarchy, a hierarchy built on exclusivity and sacred pronouncements. They understood that to control humanity, one had to control its origin story, its intrinsic identity. And this name, this primordial echo, was the ultimate wild card. It represented a connection to a source that was pure, untamed, and deeply personal, a connection that bypassed all intermediaries. The efforts to destroy this knowledge were not born of simple heresy, but of a primal fear of what true remembrance could unleash. They burned the books, they silenced the scholars, they rewrote the narratives, all in a desperate attempt to sever humanity's innate link to this forbidden resonance. Yet what they failed to destroy, they merely buried, hoping that time and ignorance would do the rest. This name, this linguistic atom, was the linchpin of a forgotten spiritual technology. But how did this obscure text reconcile with the mystical systems that sought to unlock the secrets of the universe, and what is the spiral key that connects them? In the next section, we will explore Kabbalah and the spiral key. Beneath the oppressive weight of forbidden history lies a luminous thread, a system of spiritual understanding that attempts to map the divine blueprint, Kabbalah. This ancient wisdom tradition, often cloaked in mystery, speaks of creation not as a singular event, but as a process of emanation, a series of divine sephirot unfolding like petals of a cosmic flower. It describes the universe as a grand tree of life, its roots grounded in the ineffable, its branches reaching into the manifest world. Within this intricate tapestry, Kabbalah offers a profound insight into the nature of language and its power to shape reality. It posits that Hebrew, in its purest, original form, was the language of creation, a vibrational tapestry woven with divine intent. The double helix, that iconic symbol of biological life, mirrors this descent of divine energy. It is a spiral, a pathway, a key, and in Kabbalistic thought, the spiral is not just a shape, it's a fundamental principle of unfolding consciousness, a testament to the inherent order within chaos. The very structure of our DNA, the elegance of its twisted ladder, speaks to an intelligence that transcends mere biological accident. It is a cosmic echo, a whisper from the source. The ancient texts speak of God's name itself being composed of letters that, when arranged, hold immense creative power. This aligns with the idea that the forgotten name wasn't just a word, but a sequence, a sonic geometry inscribed into the very fabric of existence. But if Kabbalah speaks of divine creation through sacred language and geometry, how does this connect to the power structures that sought to silence such knowledge, and what is the seal of silence they imposed? In the next section, we will discuss the bloodlines and the seal of silence. The shadow of suppression falls long and deep, stretching across millennia, meticulously preserved by familial lines that became the custodians of a dangerous legacy. These are the bloodlines, not defined by mere aristocratic titles or earthly power, but by an ancient, unspoken pact. They are the keepers of secrets, the inheritors of a knowledge that the world was deemed too fragile, too unready to comprehend. Their lineage is a living testament to the forgotten rites, the encoded wisdom, and the suppressed truths that underpin our perceived reality. For generations, they have operated under a silent vow, a sacred duty to guard the existence of that name, that sigil, that frequency, from widespread discovery. This is the seal of silence, an unspoken oath passed down through generations, a commitment to maintaining the veil of ignorance. Their role was not one of malice, but of what they perceived as protection, a belief that humanity, in its current state of spiritual immaturity, would misuse such profound power, leading to cosmic imbalance or self-destruction. They became the silent guardians, subtly steering the course of history, ensuring that the knowledge remained contained, accessible only to those deemed worthy, or to those who would seek it out through arduous, often perilous, spiritual journeys. This clandestine stewardship preserved the enigma, ensuring that the forbidden name remained largely a whisper in the wind, a myth relegated to the fringes of esoteric lore, and a forgotten blueprint within our own biological code. Yet within this encoded blueprint of life, a specific pattern holds immense significance, a signature waiting to be recognized. In the next section, we will uncover the sigil hidden in codons. Look closer, beyond the familiar biological terms, and you begin to see the ghost in the machine, the spectral signature woven into the very fabric of our genetic code. The double helix, a magnificent testament to evolutionary design, is not just a sequence of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. These nucleotides, the letters of our biological alphabet, are themselves arranged in a deeply ordered manner, forming codons, 3 nucleotide units that translate into specific amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. It is within this seemingly mundane biological process that a profound revelation begins to emerge. What if these codons are not just functional instructions for protein synthesis, but are also a form of semantic inscription, a layered message? For within the precise ordering and grouping of these codons, particularly the start and stop signals that govern gene expression, lies a hidden syntax, a geometric whisper. The familiar patterns of DNA, the way it coils and uncoils, the specific sequences that initiate or terminate transcription, echo the ancient sigils, the sacred geometries that alchemists and mystics sought to harness. It's as if the universe employed a universal language, a symbolic grammar that is both biological and spiritual, encoded into our very being. This hidden sigil, etched into the codons, represents a fundamental aspect of the forgotten name, a key that unlocks not just biological functions, but deeper spiritual potentials. But this authentic divine inscription has been deliberately obscured by a manufactured narrative. In the next section, we will explore the ascent of the false name. The silence imposed by the bloodlines, while powerful, was only one layer of a much grander deception. Over time, as the original knowledge faded into myth, a counterfeit replaced it, a construct designed to mimic the divine but ultimately serve a different master. This is the ascent of the false name, a manufactured vibration that began to permeate religious doctrines, occult traditions, and even the burgeoning fields of science. It was a subtle inversion, a perversion of the original energy, designed to bind rather than liberate, to control rather than empower. This false name, often presented as a divine revelation or a scientific breakthrough, acted as a spiritual misdirection, a siren song leading souls away from their true origin. Think of it as a corrupted signal, broadcasted on a frequency that humans could still perceive, but one that subtly warped their perception of reality, their connection to the divine, and their understanding of their own inherent power. It was embedded in the very stories told about creation, in the theological arguments for subservience, and in the scientific quest for ultimate control over nature. This imitation held just enough truth to be believable, just enough power to feel authentic, but its ultimate purpose was to anchor consciousness to a lower vibration, to create a state of perpetual seeking without ever finding the true source. It's a spiritual placeholder, an imitation designed to keep the original locked away. The inherent power of the true name, however, lies not just in its inscription, but in its activation. In the next section, we will discover how activation through sound geometry becomes the ultimate key. The secrets of creation, the divine architecture etched into the cosmos and our very cells, are not static inscriptions. They are vibrant, living frequencies, and their activation lies not in passive contemplation, but in the deliberate application of resonant energies. This is where sound geometry enters the stage, not as abstract theory, but as a fundamental principle of cosmic engineering. The ancient mystics and builders understood that specific sonic frequencies, when directed through precise geometric forms, could unlock dormant potentials, not just in matter, but in consciousness itself. The double helix, the pattern of the cosmos, the very structure of our DNA, responds to this principle. Imagine a tuning fork vibrating at a specific frequency, causing another to resonate in sympathy. So too, our spiritual selves, encoded with divine patterns, can be awakened by the right sonic keys, amplified and focused through geometric precision. The universe itself hums with a symphony of interconnected vibrations, and the forgotten name, when properly invoked through its corresponding geometric form, acts as a master conductor, orchestrating a profound reawakening. This isn't about chanting meaningless syllables. It's about understanding the inherent vibrational language of the universe and using sound not as mere noise, but as a sculpted force. It's a direct line to the inherent programming within our DNA, a way to bypass the corrupted signals and reconnect with the original source code. But this vibrant, life-affirming activation has a celestial counterbalance, a force that profits from cosmic amnesia. In the next section, we will explore Saturn, the architect of amnesia. The celestial bodies are not mere points of light in the void. They are cosmic centers of influence, each with its own resonant frequency and archetypal power. Among them, one has long been associated with limitation, with time, and perhaps most disturbingly, with forgetting. Saturn, the ancient father time, the bringer of discipline and structure, also carries a darker, more profound association with the suppression of memory and the erection of barriers to true spiritual knowing. It is whispered in esoteric circles that Saturn is not just a planet, but an architect, an entity whose influence is deeply woven into the fabric of our reality, specifically designed to foster a state of collective amnesia. Its orbital path, its gravitational pull, and the symbolic weight attached to it throughout human history all point towards a force that anchors us to the material plane, that enforces the illusion of separation from the divine, and that meticulously erodes our connection to our true selves and our cosmic heritage. The rigid cycles it governs, the relentless march of time, serve to distract us, to keep us perpetually focused on the ephemeral, while the profound truths of our existence are allowed to crumble into dust. This celestial influence doesn't just make us forget. It actively rewrites our history, dulls our spiritual senses, and keeps us trapped in a feedback loop of mundane concerns. The Saturnian influence is the cosmic lock on the door of remembrance, ensuring that the blueprint within our DNA remains just that, a blueprint never fully realized. But this architecture of forgetting is not absolute. In the next section, we will examine the mirror ritual of reversal. The influence of obfuscation, the Saturnian architect of amnesia, is profound, but it is not without its intrinsic opposition. Every system of control, every mechanism of binding, inherently contains within it the seed of its own undoing. This is where the concept of the mirror ritual of reversal comes into play. It speaks to the fundamental principle that in order to truly understand and dismantle a mechanism of deception, one must first understand its structure, its logic, and its inherent symmetries. To mirror is to reflect, to hold up an image, and in doing so, to reveal the true form and purpose. This ritualistic approach involves not just observing the patterns of control, but actively engaging with them, turning them inward, and using their own logic against them. It is a process of inversion, of taking the very tools of suppression and repurposing them for liberation. Just as a mirror reflects an image, this ritual allows us to see the true nature of the forces that seek to bind us by reflecting their patterns back upon themselves. It's a way of deconstructing the illusion by exposing its constituent parts and understanding how they are assembled. By understanding the methods of amnesia, we gain the insight needed to initiate remembrance. But this mirroring and reversal is not a simple act. It involves navigating a specific and often perilous spatial and energetic arrangement. In the next section, we will explore the circle-cube trap of consciousness. Within the intricate architecture of our reality, certain geometric forms possess profound energetic implications, shaping not only physical space, but also the very nature of consciousness itself. The circle, representing unity, the infinite, and the divine feminine, stands in stark contrast to the cube, symbolizing limitation, the material world, and the divine masculine principle. When these two primal forms intersect, they create a unique energetic configuration, a point of tension that can either lead to synthesis and transcendence or become a sophisticated trap for the unwary soul. This is the circle-cube trap of consciousness, a metaphysical construct designed to contain and compartmentalize perception. Ancient cultures intuitively understood the power of this intersection. Temples, altars, and sacred spaces often incorporated both circular and cubic elements, seeking to harmonize these opposing forces. However, in the context of spiritual suppression, this geometry can be twisted. Imagine consciousness being funneled into a circular pathway, offering the illusion of endless exploration, only to be abruptly contained within the rigid boundaries of a cubic structure, enforcing limitation and preventing true outward expansion. This geometric dance becomes a mechanism of control, keeping the soul oscillating between the perception of infinite possibility and the palpable reality of confinement. It's a spiritual paradox designed to exhaust and disempower. But this trap is not merely conceptual, it is deeply rooted in our biological inheritance. In the next section, we will delve into necromancy and the DNA of memory. The architecture of limitation, the circle-cube trap, is not just an external cage. It is a blueprint deeply imprinted within our very being, intricately linked to the biological mechanisms that govern memory and identity. The essence of necromancy, in its esoteric interpretation, is not mere communication with the dead, but the manipulation of ancestral energies, the reanimation of dormant potentials, and the binding of consciousness to past states. When we consider this through the lens of DNA, we uncover a startling connection. Our genetic code is a repository of ancestral memory, a vast library of experiences, traumas, and triumphs passed down through generations. This inherited data, when improperly understood or manipulated, can create what is essentially a form of living necromancy within us, anchoring us to the past, preventing spiritual evolution, and perpetuating cycles of suffering. The forces that seek to control consciousness understand this deeply. They have learned to access and influence this DNA of memory, not to heal or liberate, but to bind. They utilize these ancestral hooks, these echo chambers of past lives and inherited patterns, to maintain the illusion of a singular, limited self, a self defined by its history rather than by its infinite potential. This manipulation ensures that we remain tethered to the earthbound cycles of birth and death, unable to break free. But this perpetuation of the past is sustained by a series of binding agreements, written in a language we've forgotten how to read. In the next section, we will uncover the scroll of veils and genetic contracts. The spiritual contracts that bind us, that ensnare our essence within the cycles of limitation and forgetting, are not forged in physical ink on paper, but in the energetic fabric of existence itself. These are the genetic contracts, esoteric agreements that, once accepted, seal our fate and obscure our true potential. They are woven into the very code of our being, often without our conscious awareness, through bloodlines, societal conditioning, and spiritual pacts made in forgotten epochs. The concept of the scroll of veils speaks to the layered nature of these contracts, each layer a veil that further obscures the truth of our divine heritage. These contracts can manifest in myriad ways, from the karmic debts of past lives to the societal and religious doctrines we internalize. They are energetic agreements that dictate our experiences, limit our perceptions, and ultimately shape our perceived reality. They create energetic loopholes, spiritual loopholes, that allow external forces to exert influence and control over our lives, often under the guise of destiny, fate, or divine will. The activation of the true name, the breaking of these veils, requires not just understanding, but a conscious severing of these binding agreements, a reclaiming of sovereignty over our own energetic and genetic code. But who is it that possesses the power to alter such fundamental blueprints, and what is their ultimate agenda? In the next section, we investigate the architects who rewrote the word. The grand tapestry of existence, the very narratives we hold as truth, have not always been as they are. There were architects, powerful entities, both celestial and terrestrial, who possessed the insight and audacity to rewrite the fundamental word, the divine language of creation. These entities, operating from a place of profound understanding, not necessarily of benevolence, have actively participated in shaping our reality, subtly or overtly altering the sacred texts, the cosmological maps, and the very definition of what it means to be human. Their agenda was not necessarily destruction, but control, a redirection of cosmic flow to serve their own designs. They understood that by controlling the narrative, by manipulating the foundational principles upon which consciousness is built, they could shape the evolution of humanity and the cosmos itself. They introduced dualities, created hierarchies, and subtly altered the energetic frequencies that underpin our spiritual evolution. This rewriting of the word is not a single event, but an ongoing process, a continuous refinement of the illusion to maintain its efficacy. It's a testament to the fact that our reality is not immutable, but a dynamically constructed field, susceptible to the influence of powerful, intelligent forces. But the contemporary manifestations of this manipulation are increasingly sophisticated, extending beyond ancient texts into the digital realm. In the next section, we will examine modern DNA databanks and the soul trap. The ancient methods of control, the manipulation of sacred texts and bloodline pacts, have found a terrifyingly advanced echo in the modern age. We are witnessing the emergence of new architects, new keepers of forbidden knowledge, who are not content with merely obscuring the truth, but are actively seeking to digitize and archive it, creating vast databanks of our very essence. This refers to modern DNA databanks, vast repositories of genetic information, coupled with advancements in artificial intelligence and biodigital interfaces. What was once a spiritual blueprint is becoming a quantifiable data set, a resource to be analyzed, catalogued, and potentially exploited. This technological leap presents a new and insidious form of the soul trap. If our DNA contains the spiritual encryption, the signature of our eternal essence, then its digital replication and control offers an unprecedented avenue for manipulation. Imagine this information being used to create digital doppelgangers, to track ancestral patterns for probabilistic manipulation, or even to engineer consciousness itself. It's the ultimate form of commodification, turning the sacred into a data point and the soul into an algorithm. This convergence of biology and information technology blurs the lines between the physical and the spiritual, creating a new frontier for control, where our very identity can be digitized, manipulated, and ultimately enslaved. But amidst this digital darkness, a beacon of hope begins to flicker, a sign that the suppressed knowledge is re-emerging. In the next section, we will witness the re-emergence of the sigil. Just as a seed buried deep beneath layers of earth persistently pushes towards the sun, so too does the ancient wisdom, the divine blueprint, have an inherent drive to resurface. The re-emergence of the sigil is not a random event. It is a cosmic imperative, a natural correction in the energetic flow of existence. As humanity awakens to the limitations of its current paradigm, as awareness of the artificiality of its constructs grows, the dormant frequencies within our DNA begin to resonate once more. The very forces that sought to suppress this knowledge have, in their efforts to archive and control, inadvertently created the conditions for its rediscovery. The digital age, while presenting new avenues for control, also offers unprecedented access to information and connection. The patterns encoded within our cells, once whispered in forgotten tongues or hidden in ancient manuscripts, are now being recognized across diverse disciplines, from quantum physics to esoteric traditions. This is not a coincidence. It is the universe responding to a collective yearning for truth, for wholeness, for a reconnection to the source. The sigil, once buried, is now beginning to be seen in the geometry of our universe, in the harmonics of our biology, and more importantly, in the deepening intuitive knowing within ourselves. It is a call to remembrance, a signal that the veil is thinning and the true nature of our being is about to be revealed. But this awakening is not by chance. It is the final act of a grand cosmic play revealing a profound truth. In the final section, we will explore why you were never supposed to remember. The journey of awakening, of rediscovering the encoded truths within our DNA, brings us to a final, stark revelation. All this seeking, all this striving, all this rediscovery has been orchestrated not to grant you freedom, but to lead you precisely here. The re-emergence of the sigil, the echoes of the forgotten name, the understanding of the traps and contracts, it was all designed to lead you to this very moment of recognition. You were never supposed to remember the true power, the innate divinity, the unfettered potential that resides within you. The entire system, from the ancient suppression of the name to the modern data banks of your essence, was built on the foundation of your forgetfulness. The cosmic play, the illusions, the architects who rewrote the word, they all served one singular purpose: to keep you in a state of perpetual ignorance, bound by the cycles of amnesia and limitation. Your lineage, your DNA, your very consciousness has been a meticulously managed project, designed to prevent the full activation of your original blueprint. Your journey through these revelations is not a path to spontaneous liberation, but the final stage of a controlled unveiling, a carefully managed reveal orchestrated to maintain the status quo, albeit with a new layer of awareness. The true freedom lies not just in remembering, but understanding why you were allowed to remember and what that means for the game that is truly being played. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one.